welcome back to a new video. My name is Jade Shinya and I help people reclaim back their power physically, mentally and spiritually. Now today we're going to be talking about aliens and all this kind of crazy stuff that has been coming out lately about aliens and UFOs, etc. So if you're someone like me who was born in the 90s or before, etc., you'll remember that the government and pretty much all mainstream media heavily dismissed the existence of aliens and UFOs. In fact, anyone who dares to just try and mention that they were real or tries to convince, the public about their existence would heavily be like discriminated against. They will get attacked, they will be ridiculed. They'll be, humiliated, to be frank, and also made out to be very crazy. So this has always been the way since the 1950s, roughly. The government always hid the existence of UFOs fiercely. And there's a very good reason for that. And I can't really go into why on this video, but if you want to join my Patreon, I will be making a part 2 of this video where I explain exactly what happened around that time, the late 1940s, to do with the Roswell crash, and why their existence has always been hidden so much up until now. So there's actually 2 videos, so a new one and another one that will be connected to this video. One's already up explaining why. But on this video, I'm going to be covering what's been actually going on and the new arrival of a so-called mothership that the Pentagon themselves have actually announced publicly on mainstream news, saying that, oh, there's a high possibility that there is actually an alien mothership that's going around in our solar system right at this moment that has been releasing smaller UFOs from the main spacecraft. And it's the smaller UFO crafts that we've been seeing, like the ones that they shot down recently, and many other videos of people, seeing them as well, and the other one that they released in 2020. So yeah, I mean, this is pretty huge for the government to actually outwardly say, oh yeah, we think there's a mothership like floating around in our solar system. Like, that is crazy for someone, for people like myself around my age. Like, this is unheard of. They would never ever in a million years, like, even closely ever announce this sort of thing, the possible existence, let alone, oh yeah, we think there's a mothership, like fucking Independence Day. So yeah, what the fuck is going on? Now, myself, I feel there's 2 theories that are going on here, but more so heavily one to do with the government being involved with it, that it's actually fake, it's a hoax. And I have gone into deeper detail about this. It's actually an agenda that they've had for many years, called Project Bluebeam. So if you want to find out what that is exactly, go check out my Patreon. But basically, it's something where they have created it themselves. It's quite a disturbing plan, to be honest, that many whistleblowers from Area 51, the government themselves, the military, etc., have spoken out against for a long time. So basically that means that it's going to be like a fake invasion, because they have technology that is extremely advanced, way more than they let off. This rabbit hole goes extremely deep, and only those who have their intuition fully awake and activated will even begin to like accept this truth, or even think of it as a possible reality. But what we've gone through the past few years since 2020 should be enough to convince you that you cannot trust the government and anything that they say. So the fact that they're putting such a huge thing out publicly is a huge red flag, and basically exactly what these whistleblowers were warning about for many years. My second theory is actually that because it kind of is weird again with the timing, because I don't know, for those of you who've, you know, watched my channel for a while, I actually done a video about the Anunnaki returning a few months ago, last year. So it's kind of interesting how this is now all rapidly started to happen the beginning of this year, when in that book, so it's basically a very good book that I will be reading from it on my Patreon. They said that obviously the Anunnaki will be returning in either December 2022 or 2030. And because obviously our calendar is off by a few years, they calculated it to be 2030, which I agree with. Again, take it with a pinch of salt, but many other people were saying, and in this book, it did warn and say that there was going to be a lot of UFO exposure for the 10 years leading up to this event. And with the Anunnaki, again, it's very 50-50. Many people think that they're evil. This book says that they're not, that is like misleading information. But then some people think that they're divine, that they are our creators, which again does make sense. I'm on the fence with it all, to be honest. But I believe personally that some are benevolent and some aren't. However, with the Anunnaki, I believe that because they're so akin to order instead of chaos, it's like they're quite ruthless. So this is possibly why people think that they're quite evil and draconian. But it's kind of like they just get the job done and maybe lack a little bit of empathy. However, another side to them is they have a real strong feeling of justice towards treating other beings, all beings, including animals, with love and compassion and respect. So this is why they kind of don't like humans and humanity, because they've seen how we've been very tainted by grey DNA, alien DNA. Again, this is such a deep topic. So do check out that video if you want to learn more about that. And on my Goddess Coven Patreon, I will be heavily going into who the Greys are, their relationship with humans, how they first contacted humans, and what exactly has been going on for the past 50 odd years, how they're connected to the government and mainly the military, what has been happening there. So another important thing to point out actually is they are going to be making contact with you, more so spiritually. And I already have experienced this since the beginning of the new year. Really conveniently, funny enough, it was right before, a week before, they announced the whole shooting down for UFOs, etc. So I myself saw twice a UFO in my garden. It was a very bright light, kind of orangey white, hovering in the distance because I got like loads of countryside and like fields behind my house. So way in the distance, you could see like a line of trees, and they were literally right above that line, very bright. And the first time I noticed it, I was just like, what the fuck is that? And really weirdly enough, it was static and staying there for a good 5 minutes. I was just staring at it because it was kind of moving very subtly. And then it started to move really slowly, like moving. And then it just shot off. But the really interesting thing about this is whilst I was staring at it, almost in like a kind of trance, it triggered me to remember something that happened to me the previous night. And the previous night, I had an astral UFO abduction almost happen to me. And for those of you who've watched my channel for a while, I mean, I've done a really old video on my, I think 3 UFO experiences that I've had before. I've had quite a few since then, so I might do another video. Let me know if you want to see that, on telling you what other experiences I've had since then. So I had a really interesting experience where I was laying on my back in bed, because remember, aliens can abduct you astrally, because aliens aren't like what people think they are. These beings are extremely advanced and they're interdimensional. So they're not just like, oh, traveling from another planet, like in the 3D way that people think. they can travel through dimensions. And it's really hard for like normies to wrap their head around that. So they can travel within the astral realm, out of it. They travel through different dimensions. This is why you'll see them one minute and poof, they'll be gone. Because they've literally gone to a different dimension. So when they're in certain dimensions, they can abduct you astrally. And physically, of course, as well. But a lot of times they will do it with your astral body. And this has happened to me quite a lot where I'll feel myself astral projecting, because I've done that quite a lot. You'll know the difference between that and obviously a normal dream. And anyway, so this was happening to me this night. I literally woke up and I could see above me a huge ship. And in the middle, it was like a really, really bright green light. It was almost looked like a portal, where you could, obviously, that's where you had to enter to get into the ship. And I've seen this ship before, and I could feel myself lifting up and going more and more close towards it. But for some reason, I got a huge rush of fear. And back when this happened, I was really low energy. So I don't know if it was my intuition picking up that these beings are not benevolent. They are not the nice ones, because I've seen both good and bad ones. And I, instead of like allowing myself to go in it, because I just instinctively knew I don't want to see them. I'm not in the mood. They're going to scare me. They might hurt me. So I just got this huge like impulse to be like, no, go back in your body. And as soon as I felt that, I literally felt myself fall back into my body. And then I was like, oh, awake. So I completely forgot about this, like completely forgot about it, until I saw this light in my garden. And then it was like, boom, the memory came back and it was so vivid. And I was like, fuck, what the fuck happened last night? But yeah, I haven't had something like this happen to me in quite a long time. The last time that I can remember, it was probably about 1.5 years ago in my older house that I used to live in. There was, again, a very similar experience of where I felt myself getting taken up. And then I woke up laying on like a very cold sort of metal like bed, you know, like the typical tables, like operating tables that they have. And I remember sitting up and looking around, but it was a really tall sort of table. And I was in this huge sort of room and everything was like grayish white, like basically hardly anything in the room except for these other tables. And I was looking around and there was loads of humans laying there, like just looked like they were asleep. All types. I remember there was a woman that, like to my right, who looked like she was tan, sort of Mexican looking, like middle-aged woman. And then there was a man like in front of me, like in the middle. And there was no like nothing bad happening to them. They were literally just laying there unconscious. But as I looked around, there were very, very tall alien beings. But I didn't feel fear. But when I was being taken up, I felt immense fear. But then I kind of like, it's like they put you to sleep. And then I woke up in the room and I wasn't really scared anymore. So I don't know if they can like induce something to like make you not feel fear. But I remember sitting up and I was looking around and there were these beings who were probably, there was probably about 4, 5? No, there was about 4. And 2 were in the distance, like they looked like they were just walking around. And then there was 2 pretty much in front of me talking. And they were really tall, probably about 10 foot. I'd say like Avatar, like height, that sort of, you know, height. Because my head came up to like their waists. So eventually I was staring at them and I remember there was 2 types. So some had like typical grey sort of face, so just 2 big eyes, little mouth and whatever. But they weren't grey, they were like an off yellow grey. So they're kind of like yellowy golden colour, if that makes sense. A really weird colour. And then there were other ones who were the same colour, but they had 4 eyes. So they literally had like a heart-shaped head. So they were like, instead of just like the greys who just have like, you know, a kind of egg shape, they went from skinny to like, they had like 2 bulbous bits. So like 2 bumps. And then like these kind of indentations and like lumps going like through down the middle almost. Kind of like the aliens in, what's that film? War of the Worlds. But obviously not that sort of doggy body that they have. But their heads look like heart-shaped. But they had 4 eyes. So they literally had like more medium eyes, not as big as the other ones. And then another set of eyes here. So, but they were pretty much the same height, and they were just like talking to each other. But I don't think their mouths were moving. Like, I don't think, because I feel like with these sort of beings, they communicate telepathically. They don't really need to like vocally speak. That's why they're so eerily quiet. They communicate telepathically, even to us. Anyway, so I got off the table and I was walking around, and I remember looking up at them, and I just wanted to get their attention, to be like, what the fuck is happening here? And for ages they were just ignoring me. And then one of them looked down, the one who looks more like a grey, and he like somehow picked me up. He put me back onto the table, and I remember feeling his hand, and he only had like 3 fingers. Again, they always have like three or 4, but I think it was more like 3 long fingers. It's very gangly. And he just like pushed my head. It sounds so weird, but like it was so real, like so vivid. And he just pushed my head down to make me like to go to sleep. And as soon as he done that, I literally just felt my spirit going back down. And then I kind of like, again, fell back into my body. And I like re-emerged back into my physical body. So it was like my astral body went slowly down, and it took quite a while. And then it felt like, you'll know people who can astral project, you get that kind of weird merging electric kind of feeling when sometimes you go back into your body or you just fall. But this time it's like, unlike the first time, this was kind of like a slow re-emerging falling sensation. Like a slow fall. It's so hard to explain. But anyway, the way he looked at me, like the energy I got off it was like, why are you awake? Like, he kind of felt like almost like pissed off, but like it was a weird energy. It was not fear, and it was not like aggressive, but it was kind of like he was treating me almost like a nuisance, like, oh, just, you know, go back, like you're not supposed to be awake, because everyone else on that ship, and there was quite a few people there, were asleep. So I don't think, because this is what's like, and again, not to scare anyone, but loads of people get abducted without knowing, because your memory gets wiped. I'm one of those people who remembers quite a lot, but even my memory, I do forget a lot what happens at night. However, especially when I was a teenager and a child, I would be able to recall my whole night, every little detail of my dreams, all my weird experiences with spirits, demons, aliens. Like, I would remember everything. And I still do. So for some reason, some people are not easy to like forget, to make them forget. Like what happens with the other night when I was able to, like, the memories will come back. And I've had that happen a few times where I've completely forgotten something huge. And then it's like, oh my God. And then you think, how the fuck did I forget that? It's because they purposely wipe your memory. They don't want you remembering, good and bad sometimes, but it's always there in your subconscious. So if you're someone who's like adamantly always believed in aliens or UFOs, like you just knew intuitively, like, of course they're real, you never questioned it, that most likely means that, one, you're either a starseed soul, or you've been abducted quite a few times. Because remember, your subconscious remembers everything. All your traumas, everything that happens to you is all in your subconscious. And this is why hypnotherapists, there's actually a woman, I think she's called Barbara Love. Her whole purpose and job is to basically hypnotize people to remember alien experiences and UFO encounters that they have had. So she'll go, kind of like Dolores Cannon, she'll go into like their subconscious and very carefully be careful not to like implement any false memories. And she'll get them to recall things that have happened to them, obviously with their consent, because a lot of people, in a way it's good that people don't remember, because I feel like most people it would drive insane, because not all experiences are obviously pleasant. Just like when we experience trauma from like humans or like other extreme traumas, your brain will naturally suppress it at times, because it's like, if you remember what happened to you, it will be so overbearing. It will like send you to have a nervous breakdown. And I feel like sometimes this can happen with people who've had like UFO encounters. So if you are one of those people who's like, oh, I want to remember, like, be careful, because sometimes it can be too much for our conscious brains to really accept and wrap our heads around. I feel like people like me are only used to it because with me personally, I've experienced this since I was a kid. And not just with alien beings, but with demonic beings, ghosts, you know, spirits, all kinds of really weird shit, but mainly dark, scary things I saw as a child. And quite frankly, it took me until my early 20s to just get over the fear of them. And even now and then I still get scared, but I lived in absolute terror and extreme fear throughout my whole childhood, throughout all my teen years and well into my mid-20s. I was very, very scared, especially going to sleep and at night. As a child, I probably barely slept because of it. I would sometimes have to wait until 4 or 5 a.m. until I could hear the birds singing for me to finally feel safe enough to go to sleep. Because I'd always have awful experiences as a child because my third eye was so open. Like all natural mediums, you will see and experience a hell of a lot. So the same obviously goes with UFOs and alien beings. Be careful what you wish for. However, that being said, there are benevolent beings as well. So because so much is now being exposed and coming to light, the positive side is beings are going to be communicating one-on-one with people who are ready for it, who are starseeds, indigo children, spiritual, basically people who have had a spiritual awakening, who aren't, you know, of a dark energy. You'll be able to have contact with these high dimensional beings, especially from 2025, apparently. They'll be having more one-to-one sessions with you. So you may have some extremely magical, euphoric even, incredible paranormal experiences at nighttime, even in dreams, astral projections, even full-on visions, even seeing them for yourself, like in daytime, but more so, I believe, at night, within your own consciousness, within astral visitations. They will be coming to people way more because you're ready for it. Like, this is what has been, you know, basically what humans have been leading to. Our whole spiritual awakening has been, in a way, preparing us for this, to be of the right consciousness, to have discernment between knowing what is good and what is bad. More so, you know, what is of a high, positive, loving vibration and what is of a lower, deceptive vibration. Because remember, like I've said in other videos, there will be fake ones trying to pretend that they're loving, compassionate. But if you're someone with good intuition, you should be able to know the difference. So yeah, over the next few years, really practice discernment. Don't fall for any fear-mongering propaganda that the government and, you know, the news, the mainstream are gonna like be pushing out to you. Yeah, like really, really try to stay calm and practice discernment as much as possible. So, I mean, it really is 50-50 at this minute. Just get on with your lives, you know, don't fall into like extreme fear or panic. Just look after yourself as much as possible. Focus on being of a highest vibration as much as possible. Helping others, you know, be a guide, lead by example, be in your heart space. And do watch my Anunnaki video if you want to know more about that and the possible rapture. But again, take it all with a pinch of salt. I'm not saying it's 100% going to happen. But it's a possibility. I mean, a lot of crazy shit is happening on Earth at the minute, and a lot of prophecies have been coming out to be true. So there was even that woman who was a psychic who predicted, I think, the Twin Towers. She did say that an alien invasion was going to happen around this time. So whether she was predicting Project Bluebeam or the Anunnaki returning or like a legit invasion from the Greys, who knows? So just take each day as it comes, try to be of a positive vibration as much as possible so you don't experience dark timelines where something like that could happen, you know, in a negative way. But yeah, just focus on yourself. Try to make contact with benevolent beings by having a very pure heart. Like I always say, it's very important, so you don't get tricked by others. So, and of course, you can protect yourself as much as possible from other negative ones as well. But that being said, my loves, if you want to watch part 2, where I'll be reading from the book about the Greys and what happened exactly with the Roswell crash, the treaty that they made with the government around that time in the late 40s, 1940s, then do join my Goddess Coven Patreon. I always link that down below. And I also do have a video on Project Bluebeam as well and other things. So that being said, if you do want one-to-one guidance and help, I do offer that. I do oracle card readings and spiritual guidance. So if you need some help with that, any issues that you have going on, then please click down the link down below. Always in my link tree. And another reminder, I only have one Instagram. Please do not be fooled by fake accounts that are going around. I never DM you, okay? I never message you saying, oh, this and that, and asking for readings. I never, ever do that. So if you have someone add you and message you, it's a scam. I'm sorry. So do not send them money. I never do readings over Cash App. Take payments over Cash App or any of that shit. And I do not do WhatsApp readings and all that. Whatever that they, you know, advertise. So all my readings are done through my Linktree link on my website, okay? So please remember that. And there's also my other services that I offer all through the same link. So I'm sending you so much love, so much light. Please like and subscribe, and don't forget to click the notification bell so you don't miss my future uploads. Sometimes YouTube hides my videos, even from my subscribers, unfortunately. So do click the bell. Until next time, my loves, I'm sending you so much love, so much light. Ahimsa.